Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Welcome to the Daybreak Asia podcast. I'm Doug Krisner. It certainly is all about earnings, and the focus is mega cap tech after results from SK Hynix, Alphabet, and Tesla. Plus, the intrigue over President Xi Jinping's future will not cease. Bloomberg opinion columnist Karishma Vaswani says it's the result of a succession crisis of Xi's own making. We'll check in with her momentarily. But as promised, we begin with those big tech earnings. Early on Thursday, the Korean chipmaker SK Hynix reported record operating profit for the second quarter. The $6.7 billion haul was driven by the company's dominance in high-bandwidth memory chips. Revenue, $16.1 billion. That was 8% higher than projections. Here in the States, Alphabet beat Wall Street expectations for second quarter revenue. However, shares were down after the tech giant warned of higher spending ahead. The Google parent posted sales of $81.7 billion, excluding partner payouts, but capital expenditures are forecast to hit $85 billion in 2025. That would be up from $75 billion the company previously forecast. Mandeep Singh is senior tech analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence.
1/3 of their business is cloud and YouTube, and that's still growing north of 25%. So to my mind, they are showing ROI on all that AI spend. And if they have more AI infrastructure capacity, the cloud business would be growing even faster.
That is Mandeep Singh from Bloomberg Intelligence. And last but not least, Tesla's second quarter results fell short of Wall Street estimates. Revenue was down by 12% for the quarter compared to last year to $22.5 billion. That is the sharpest sales decline for Tesla in over a decade. And facing the prospect of lost incentives from the United States, CEO Elon Musk issued this warning on the earnings call.
We probably could have a few rough quarters. I'm not saying we will, but we could.
That is Elon Musk. And for a closer look at the Tesla story, we heard from Michael Dunn, CEO at Dunn Insights. He spoke with Bloomberg TV host Sherry Ahn and Heidi Stroud-Watts.
How much of one's view on Tesla and Elon Musk, by extension, depends on whether you see this as a straightforward auto company or an AI and robotics company? And is that sort of through different lens that you would have seen these results plus the warning?
Yes, 100% difference depending on how you see the company. So a year ago, Elon Musk was talking about extreme capacity, building 20 million EVs a year. He doesn't talk about that anymore. He looked down the road at EVs and said, I don't want to try to compete with the Chinese on EVs and price. I'm going a different direction, wide open highway called robo-taxis and autonomy. That's where he's taken all of his chips and placed them on that bet. Robo-taxis, today in Austin, very soon in places like London, Sydney, Paris, Rome, Los Angeles. So it's all about AI and robotics, and you'll hear him talk less and less about batteries and electric cars.
And you're still saying that there's very few that would dare bet against Elon Musk, even in this uncertain leadership and regulatory environment, right? There's still plenty of concerns recently revived when it comes to how much sort of political distraction he has at the moment.
When you think about it, it's almost amazing that Tesla sold any cars in the most recent quarter. He's managed to upset both Republicans and Democrats here in the United States. Germans I talked to in Europe, no, we're done with Tesla. In China, he's surrounded by formidable competitors like Xiaomi, Li Auto, NIO, and others, Xpeng. So the company's definitely under pressure, and he's done the company no favors on the public relations front. But never underestimate Tesla's ability to surprise to the upside. Through AI, through technology breakthroughs, customers are still buying the cars despite all of this friction.
When it comes to capital, free cash flow, when it comes to really the performance and just metrics, how much of a dent will it make that the incentives like the EV tax credits are expected to go away?
This hurts, no doubt about it. And if Elon Musk says differently, well, we'd have to discount those words because, number one, on tariffs, there's a $300 million hit. And number two, EV tax credits are definitely an incentive, especially here in the United States, for people who are on the fence to say, yeah, let me try an EV because I'm going to get the tax credit. That's going away, and that hurts Tesla. But by extension, it also hurts all other automakers in the space. So for that reason, one has to remain still slightly optimistic about Tesla's chances, just because Elon Musk is a once in a million years kind of entrepreneur, and he's in SpaceX and he's in XAI. He's doing a lot of things, and it feels like he's a few steps ahead of us. So that's why the stock is still valued up around $1 trillion, much higher than any other automaker, including Toyota, which makes amazing profits that dwarf Tesla's today. So investors are still holding their ground, saying, yeah, we're going to give Elon benefit of the doubt, even though current sales outlook is not strong.
You mentioned Toyota. The stock did phenomenally well after we saw that 15% tariff agreement with the United States. How much of a difference does this make for Japanese car makers, especially when it comes to relative competitive edge against other car makers in other regions?
Yeah, Toyota and others are popping the champagne today in Japan because they're just delighted with the outcome. You know, keep in mind, Japan sells millions of cars into the United States every year. The U.S. sells a few thousand back into Japan. So the Japanese negotiators would have been worried. Are they going to slam the door shut? Are they going to hit us with super high tariffs? That was not the outcome. And as a result, Toyota and Honda and other Japanese automakers are feeling really good today.
Michael Dunn, really good to have you with us, CEO of Dunn Insight.
Welcome back to the Daybreak Asia podcast. I'm Doug Krisner. It's time to check in with Bloomberg Opinion. Columnist Karishma Vaswani has been writing about how the rumors in China about the political elite are not dying. I'm pleased to say she joins us now. Karishma, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so very much for making the time to chat with me. And I know that this is an extremely sensitive topic. What is the most important thing to bear in mind when discussing the ruling class in China?
Well, I think the most important thing to bear in mind when we have a discussion about China's political elite is that historically, hearsay about how the Politburo, the inner workings of the Politburo, there's been a long tradition of that being wholly inaccurate. You know, we've had rumors come out from time to time predicting X, Y, and Z about the future of certain political figures within the Chinese Communist Party. And for the most part, 99% of the time they've been wrong. And one really striking example comes to mind back in 2011 when a Hong Kong TV station reported mistakenly that the former Chinese president Jiang Zemin had died. And that was actually 11 years before his actual death in 2022. And I think the reason behind these kinds of, I make that point because of the fact that there is so little that we do know about what's going on in the inner workings of the Chinese Communist Party, that when these rumors come out, people are quick to sort of, circulate them. There's a lot of Chinese whispers, forgive the pun, and there are a lot of conclusions drawn about what is happening. But they've pretty much always been inaccurate.
Can you help me understand how this speculation kind of fits in with the notion that President Xi has been for a while very involved in kind of anti-corruption? We know the big campaign that was put in place a couple of years back. I think it's continuing always. Help me understand the context.
Yeah, so, the intrigue over President Xi Jinping and what he does in China is no less speculative. But there are a few things that we are able to decipher. The other aspect of this, of course, is the fact that there's no clear succession plan in place as of now. And I think that also creates an atmosphere of uncertainty, which allows for more of these rumors to circulate. But specifically, to do with the anti-corruption drive that he's put in place during his tenure, I think one of the things that really struck me was the quick succession of sort of the defense ministers that have fallen foul of these new regulations or sort of new norms. I think it would be a better way to describe that. And we've seen stories about the trouble in the sort of higher echelons of Chinese power. And the biggest consequence of that is an indication that Xi Jinping's power has in fact cemented, because he is getting rid of people, apparently, at least from what we can see, that he appears to deem not productive or not consequential to the way he wants to run the country, and in particular the defense forces. So I think what you can draw from that is that his power is actually growing. For the most part. And I think that's a really important takeaway from what we've seen in terms of the political ramifications and consequences of the inner workings of the Politburo.
So back in March 2018, as you well know, the National People's Congress approved the removal of that 2-year term limit on the presidency, and that effectively allowed President Xi to remain in power for life. Is that a part of the story as well, do you think?
Yes, absolutely. And, at every stage, Xi Jinping has defied convention to solidify his grip. Some analysts that I've been speaking to, long-term China watchers, there's a phrase that I thought was particularly apt for this conversation, and that, the consensus is that he will likely rule China until he goes to meet Marx, which means basically until he meets his maker. And what has been really evident is that he's been successful in doing this, which goes to show that the alliances that he's made or the people that he's removed from power, at every stage, the strategy has appeared to have worked. And that's despite the fact that, the economy has been in a weak spot. That's despite the fact that he is fighting this trade war with Donald Trump, and that, people in the country are definitely feeling the impact of what higher tariffs could mean for them and their businesses. He seems to have consistently just been able to cement and solidify his grip on power, even going so far as to rule past the retirement age of 68, ignoring previous norms that have indicated leaders of that age or older should retire.
So that's a great point. Do we need to consider his age in this? And I'm wondering whether we need to also consider what the aspirations are of the next generation.
It's hard to say at this moment, given the fact that all of these rumors are still circulating. One of the things that I found really interesting in my research for this column was the fact that there's been a revival of the Cold War era practice of something called Pekingology, which is effectively just reading the tea leaves from the party's inner circle. And people that are based in China will tell you as well that reporting on what's going on there has become a bit of sort of a black box, because it's so hard to decipher or to get concrete information about what's happening on the ground. But I think what that shows is that we will continue to have these sorts of rumors going forward, and for the most part, none of them will be true.
Can you give me a sense of how this is being presented to citizens in China vis-a-vis state media?
Yeah, sure. If you look at how Xi Jinping is presented in state media, there is a cult of personality that is obvious that they're trying to create around him, and it's been very, very effective. So much so that when he starts to disappear, or there's a perceived absence of his in state media, international media tends to draw conclusions about that. But there's been an interesting study by the China Media Project assessing whether or not he really had been downplayed in government publications recently. And the answer actually is that, according to their reporting, that not only does he remain dominant, but there are no signs of advancement by any member of the Politburo Standing Committee. And what I think this shows is just how much of a big figure he continues to remain in state media, and that cult of personality that I was talking about, which is then parlayed to citizens in China.
So one of the things that you touched on a moment ago was the trade war that's going on right now with the United States. And I'm wondering how this has impacted the feeling of nationalism in China, and whether that is kind of intersecting a little bit with what we're talking about.
Yeah, it is, in the sense that it's been used highly effectively, both in some of the rhetoric that you hear from Xi Jinping, but also other officials and in state media when describing the trade war with the United States. I think the language has been pretty firm, like we're not going to stand down, we're going to defend our rights against what the United States has often been called a bully in the state media and the official language there. And I think what that does is definitely create a sense of national pride on the part of Chinese citizens, because they And it's a familiar narrative, right? The narrative that the United States is trying to keep China down, that it's trying to stop its rise. That feeds into what Xi Jinping has consistently said about how the East is rising and the West is in decline. And I think that's a very useful narrative at a time when the Chinese economy perhaps isn't in the strongest position or as strong as it has been in the past. Everybody always needs a bad guy, and in this situation, the U.S. is a very convenient bad guy.
Karishma, we'll leave it there. Thank you so very much. Bloomberg opinion columnist Karishma Vaswani joining us here on the Daybreak Asia podcast. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Bloomberg Daybreak Asia Edition podcast. Each weekday, we look at the stories shaping markets, finance, and geopolitics in the Asia Pacific. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, the Bloomberg Podcast YouTube channel, or anywhere else you listen. Join us again tomorrow for insight on the market moves from Hong Kong to Singapore and Australia. I'm Doug Krisner, and this is Bloomberg.
Dave is next up on PTL. Hey, Dave.
Hey, can you hear me, Brian?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Thank you. This question I had for you was actually more for Parker because I've been on hold and I didn't know he had to go. So I guess I'll just ask the question to you. You know, with Parker being as popular as he is and being the age that he is, and him and Dean and Harry and everyone, you know, being young and upcoming, like, I guess you'd call them Democrat superstars. And this is, again, more for Parker, but in your estimation, do you really think that those kids are actually going to be able to draw in all the young male voters that the Democrats lost last year in the election?
So I'm not Parker, so I'm not going to answer that question. That would be
you don't
more
have to speak for him.
That would be. I don't. I don't speak for Parker, but you speak for yourself. So I think, and I can try to answer that. But I think a more pertinent question that I would like you to answer is: you're somebody that voted for Donald Trump. Do you regret your vote now? Now, assuming this reporting is factually accurate, which I have no doubt that it is, that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, will you admit that maybe you shouldn't have voted for him, or does that not bother you?
Well, if he's in the report, then yeah, I would regret voting for him. But can you respectfully answer the question that I asked you?
I will, but I think this is kind of more important than your Parker question.
Why can't you just answer the question based on I just asked you? You can just answer very simply.
Ask the question again. I will answer it if you're willing to. If you're willing to answer some questions of mine as well. Fair enough?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead. Ask it again. Go ahead.
Absolutely. My point is last year the Democrats lost a ton of young male voters. They even openly recognized it, and they started to campaign and put a ton of money into trying to get them back.
Yeah.
My question to you is, do you think guys like Parker, Dean, Harry, and all those kids are actually going to appeal to regular voters who aren't necessarily Republican or Democrat, but just voters? Do you actually think that those kids are going to draw in people who...
Well, first of all, the millions of followers that they have are not all people under the age of 30. In fact, you just listen to people that call into this show, some they're 50s, 60s, and 70s that love what Parker does. So that's proof right there. I would say absolutely 100% the answer is yes. There weren't enough people that were that prominent maybe even a year ago. Yes, I think the more young people like Parker and Adam Mockler, who does this show a lot, who just recently signed a deal with Midas Touch. Beasley is another one that I think is doing a really good job. The more younger people like the Parkers of the world that are getting more involved with the huge platform that they have, yes, I do think they will appeal to people, not just younger people, but older people as well. There's a lot of my listeners. I have a pretty good audience. I don't have Parker's audience, but I have a pretty good audience, as you know, Dave. And a lot of the people
mostly liberals.
I wouldn't say mostly liberals. I would say mostly people who are anti-Trump, like me. I don't do a survey of are you liberal. There are some MAGA people that call in as well. But you're asking me whether they're liberal or not doesn't matter. You're asking me will they appeal to an older audience? They already are. I mean,
no, I didn't say older audience. I'm saying the younger male, primarily male audience, because as you know, a lot of young males are shifting right, and a lot of young females are shifting left.
Yeah, I understand, Dave. That. I understand what you're saying, Dave. That's the way I would answer
that. I'm not asking you a gotcha question. I'm asking
I don't think it is. I'm sincerely giving you an answer. I don't think that's a gotcha question. I would say the answer is yes, and I certainly gave you my reasons why. Okay, Dave. So I answered your question best I could. And listen, when Parker comes back on the show, you're welcome to call back and you could ask him that yourself, because I believe Parker will come back on. But Dave,
I did, and I wanted to pick his brain.
I understand. You'll have the opportunity to do that. I promise you that, because I can tell you Parker will come back on sometime down the road. So Dave, you and I both know the Wall Street Journal is not going to put this out in lie. They're not. It would totally ruin their credit. And by the way, this is not a liberal publication. Donald Trump has already threatened to sue them. You know, Murdoch is not a stupid guy. Okay, they have the information that Donald Trump was told back in May that the DOJ told him that multiple times he is in the Epstein files. Now, assuming that that's true, let's just assume that that's true. I think that's a very fair assumption. Are you willing right now on this show to say, geez, as much as I'm not a Democrat and as much as I didn't support Kamala Harris, I probably made a mistake voting for the guy that's in the Epstein files? Are you willing to admit that now, Dave?
On the assumption that it's true, sure.
You think there's a chance that the Wall Street Journal is just lying about this and this is totally fabricated? You really believe that?
Well, first of all, I haven't read this because you said it just came out.
It's on every.
I don't know what
Dave, I understand. It's on every single publication right now, even Fox News.
I can't speak to it because I haven't looked at it.
Okay, well, you don't have to speak to it. I'm telling you right now what the reporting is from the Wall Street Journal. I'm telling you word for word based on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, every outlet that's reporting on this, that the DOJ told Donald Trump that his name is among many in the Epstein files. His name is mentioned multiple times, and they told him back in May. Are you willing to admit that you probably made a mistake voting for this guy? He's in the Epstein files, Dave. Come on, man. Come on, dude.
I just told you, if he's in the Epstein files, then yes.
What do you think of the chances that this story is fake? That the Wall Street Journal just made up a story?
I'm not saying the story's fake. What I'm saying is I haven't read it, and I'm not just going to take your word that it says exactly what it says.
All right. Okay. Well, it's not my
look.
word. I'm literally reading verbatim from every news publication, including Fox News. So if that is true, Dave, are you going to admit that you shouldn't have voted for this guy?
Well, yes, I just said yes,
good.
If it's true.
Okay.
Now,
So
again, show me the evidence, and again, I don't mean to keep saying the same thing, but respectfully, I haven't read it yet, so I really can't speak to it.
Okay. Well,
to the Wall Street Journal article.
Go ahead and turn on the TV. It's on every single national news network. It is a huge story. The Wall Street Journal put out this article saying that the DOJ told Donald Trump that he's in the files back in May. If the Wall Street Journal, hypothetically speaking, which I don't believe they are, but if this was a made-up story and a lie, the Wall Street Journal would no longer exist. There is a reason why when Elon Musk went on Twitter that Donald Trump was all over the Epstein files, Donald Trump didn't threaten to sue Elon Musk. In fact, he didn't even respond to it. You know why, Dave? Because it's true. Also, the reason why Donald Trump has been trying to deflect, and for the last couple of weeks he said he doesn't want to talk about the Epstein stuff. He talked about sugarcane and Coca-Cola. He talked about Obamagate, which is a farce. He's talked about everything and anything, including releasing the Martin Luther King Jr. Files this week. There's a reason for that, Dave, and I think you know the reason. He has been deflecting. He doesn't want anybody talking about the Epstein files because he had something to hide. And what he had to hide was he's all over the Epstein files. This was his former best friend. He's been on the flight log 6 times. And I'm sorry to say this, Dave, but I'm just going to say it. You voted for a pedophile. You voted for a guy who probably had sex with underage girls. You voted for a guy who's in the Epstein files, Dave.
You can't prove he's a pedophile. You don't have any actual evidence of him performing a sex act with a minor.
Actually, you don't have to be labeled. Hold on. You don't have to be labeled a pedophile to have physical sex with a minor. You know what my definition of a pedophile is? Someone who brags about going into teenage locker rooms looking at young teenage girls naked. That is the definition of a pedophile. He did it on the Howard Stern show. You knew about it, and you still voted for him.
Wait a second. Is that the definition, or is that Brian's definition of what a pedophile is?
So somebody who is... Let me ask you a question then, since you don't think that's a pedophile. Let me ask you... No. I want to ask you a question. Somebody who is sexually bragging about looking at a bunch of 14 and 15-year-old girls undressing naked without their permission. Now, you tell me, what would you label that as?
Well, I mean, again, I'd have to see actual evidence.
You would have to see actual evidence. Donald Trump admitted to doing that on the Howard Stern show. Stop it with you'd have to actually see evidence.
And I have yet to see any young girls come out and say yes.
There have been 3 girls. There have been 3 women. You could look this up yourself. It's funny how you don't know what I'm talking. Yeah, women? Really. Look it up. You can Google it. Women. There have been multiple women. There have been. Now they're women, dude. They were teenagers back then.
So you're saying they were girls then? Well,
yes.
You'd have to tell me the age. And you'd also, and again, then formal charges should be filed, and for whatever reason they haven't been, likely because there's no significant evidence. I'm not saying he's not in the files. I'm saying just show me significant evidence.
Would you say it's significant evidence when Donald Trump admitted to going into a teenage girl's locker room on the Howard Stern show and bragged about it sexually. You don't think that's evidence? Was Donald Trump just lying? By the way, there are multiple women who have come forward that said when they were younger in this pageant, he went in there without their permission and they felt very uncomfortable. I'm not sure what more evidence you need. Why do you continue to defend this guy who's in the Epstein files?
I'll explain. Because accusing someone of being a pedophile is one of the most, intense accusations.
What would you say about all the people who called Joe Biden a pedophile?
I would say that there was no evidence to substantiate that.
Yeah, well, guess what? We have evidence to substantiate the fact that Donald Trump is a pedophile. He bragged about looking at teen. Yes, I do. He bragged about.
Well, if there
yes,
was
I do.
Evidence, you would have been charged.
Yes, I do. Years later, he bragged about it. Okay, you see, years later, he bragged about going.
Isn't that convenient? He wasn't charged because there's not a significant amount of evidence.
So if somebody isn't charged,
it wasn't significant enough for him to get charged.
I see. So do you think Bill Cosby's a rapist?
I mean, I haven't really paid attention to it, but I do believe so. Yeah.
You do believe so. How many times has Bill Cosby been convicted of rape?
I don't know.
You don't know. You don't know. You didn't pay attention to it. Okay, I'm just proving the point that what you're saying has no credibility to what you're saying.
What do you mean no credibility? I didn't follow Bill Cosby. What does that have to do with anything?
Okay, well, guess what? Just because Bill Cosby wasn't convicted for 100 or 200 rapes doesn't mean he's not a rapist. And just because Donald Trump wasn't convicted of having sex with underage girls doesn't mean he's not a pedophile, Dave. You keep making excuses, and you keep saying, well, I didn't read that. Oh, I didn't know about that.
I'm saying show me significant evidence. If the evidence
why won't Donald Trump?
They would have tried him.
Why won't Donald Trump release the Epstein files? Why do you think that is, Dave? Use your brain for a moment. Why has he been deflecting for the last 2 weeks? Why do you think that is, Dave?
Well, it's pretty obvious because him and a ton of people are likely in it.
There you go.
Until you can prove it.
So Donald Trump is likely in it. I would agree with that based on the Wall Street Journal reporting. So would it likely be the case then that you made a mistake voting for this guy since you believe
if he's
likely
proven to be in it?
Right. Okay.
You keep saying that if he's proven
right. Well,
to be
I'm sure.
in it.
Well, listen, Dave. I'm sure the Wall Street Journal is lying. I'm sure everybody else is lying. I guess we're going to play some audio for you. I don't know what audio it is, but I guess we're going to be playing some audio for you right now because Donald Trump. Okay. Last week, there's an audio clip of him talking about the meeting he had with Pam Bondi. Here's what he had to say about it. I guess. Well.
The Attorney General briefed you on the DOJ and FBI review, the findings of that review. The Attorney General briefed you on that.
What? On the
DOJ and FBI
on what?
review.
On what subject?
Epstein.
Okay.
On Epstein, of the review of the files. Attorney General Pam Bondi.
A very quick briefing.
Did she tell you, what did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing. And in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen, and I would say that, these files were made up by Comey, they were made up by Obama, they were made up by the Biden, we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it, but she's handled it very well, and it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release.
Yeah, but apparently what's not credible is the fact that he's in the files. Did you see the way he answered that question? That should have told you alone that he has a lot to hide. Okay? He's in the Epstein files. He was briefed on it. He was told back in May by the DOJ, according to the Wall Street Journal reporting. So Parker has agreed to take some phone calls, and this might be a little bit different than Parker than what you're used to because you're constantly debating people that disagree with you, and I would imagine some people that really don't like you. A lot of my listeners are huge fans of yours, so what I want to do is I want to open up the phone lines as long as everybody's respectful, which I'm sure they will be, to be able to ask Parker some questions. Number to call 702-221-7283, and again, that number, here's your opportunity to speak to Parker directly. He's nice enough to be sticking around for a little bit and take some phone calls. 702-221-7283. So Parker, before we get to the calls, I always like to ask certain people this question. I actually asked Destiny this question yesterday. I want to ask you the same question. In a PG-13 way, like if you had the opportunity to speak to Donald Trump right now, you would have the opportunity to sit in a room with him with no cameras, nobody else around, and you just had the chance to say whatever you want to him. You could ask him whatever you want. What would you say to Donald Trump right now?
I think I would ask him I would ask him about the Epstein files. Like if I could get like an actual response, like, or is it like I expect any type of response that he would typically give to like the public?
That's interesting. Yeah, I get a lot of different responses from a lot of different people, but that would certainly be a question that I would absolutely like to ask him. And I would say, do you really believe that you won the 2020 election? Because Parker, I think he knows he lost.
Yeah, or I would ask him like if I'm getting like a genuine response, I might ask him like, do you actually support the violence on January 6th, or what are the reasons why you are pardoning them? Like, was that specifically your determination, or was that the determination of someone else? Because realistically speaking, all right, they tried to play off this narrative that, oh, I was just wanting it to be peaceful, but then you can't say you just want it to be peaceful and then pardon and condone, right, the violent rioters, right? After they literally did they talk so much about how there were violent riots happening relating to like the BLM protests and stuff like that. But then immediately when it relates to their political violence, they condone it and they pardon it. That's ridiculous.
They're hostages and they're patriots if you beat a cop on January 6th. But if you key a Tesla, lock them up in jail and throw the key away. It really is absurd. All right, Parker, our phone lines are jam-packed. I'm not surprised. There's a lot of people that want to talk to you, and thank you for doing this, by the way. Let's start off with Efren. Efren is first. Hey, Efren, you're on with Parker. Go right ahead.
Hi.
Hello, what's up?
I don't know if you remember me. It was like a whole year ago this conversation happened. We had run the vegan argument, named the trait, and a conservative bit the bullet and said he would be okay with unaliving people that were mentally disabled. And we had canceled him over that. But I believe recently, in your response to like what separates us between like animals and humans, you had said, I provide the conjunction of human with past or present subjective experience. I value animals, but it's very distinct from the value I place on human beings because human beings are species that meet a particular threshold of rationality, which sounds similar to the answer the other person gave. So, like, what is that threshold of rationality that humans are meeting?
Yeah, so you're referencing older millennial, who's like a MAGA grifter who said it's okay to throw mentally disabled people off a mountain. So like I just want to clarify, like when I'm saying that the species is granted, when I'm speaking into it, it like reduces the volume on my mix amp. So like what you're talking about is the meeting a particular threshold of rationality means that a certain percentage of our species meets the condition for rationality. Therefore, we'd grant every sentient member of the species value because it is the case that it's a conjunction of traits. So, I mean, I'm not saying that like other sentient beings don't have any moral value. I actually place a hell of a lot of value on other sentient beings. I'm very open to vegan ethics, and especially, but like my view is something a vegan can actually accept themselves, right? Like just because it is the case that you're vegan doesn't mean that you believe that humans have the same level of value as every other sentient being. Like you can still see a distinction in value amongst humans and non-human sentient beings, but then also say that you're vegan.
See, this is why Parker's IQ is probably 4 times higher than mine. But as long as I'm smarter than Marjorie Taylor Greene, that's really all that matters. Thank you for the call, Efren. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Shelly. Shelly is next up on PTL. Hey, Shelly, you're on with Parker. What's going on?
Hey, Brian. Hey, Parker. I watch you as long as I can every day because I'm on the East Coast in, guess what state? West Virginia. But no, you, Brian, Dean, and the Midas Touch is what I watch every day. And you are so smart. I'm 57, and I don't have that many brain cells, honey.
I'm losing them every day because of the MAGA supporters I debate.
What, honey?
I said I'm losing them every day because of all the MAGA supporters I debate.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
Well, thank you, Shelly. I concur with you, Shelly. Parker's awesome, and we appreciate you calling in. And maybe this is a nice change for you, Parker. Once in a while, it's nice to get some compliments with all these MAGA idiots that you have to speak with every day. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Brett. Brett is next up on PTL. Hey, Brett, you're on with Parker. Go right ahead.
Hey, what's up, fellas? It's pretty wild to talk to both of you. It's like my world's colliding here because I watch Parker every day, and I just wanted to call in and say, like, I'm so happy that Parker and Dean do the show that they do because I think the younger generation gets a really bad rap, and I think that that those guys blow away the stereotypes. And I'm 54 years old, and it's a very trying time for our political climate, and these guys do such a great job. And I just want to say I'm so proud that you guys do what you do. And Brian, I always love your show, and I just wanted to say continue to cook these guys, and I love the show. And that's about it.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Those are really nice comments. By the way, don't be afraid to ask Parker a question. He'll answer just about anything. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Dave. Dave is next on PTL. Hey, Dave, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for taking the call. Hey, Parker, I watch your show. I'm a good listener. So I have a good question for you guys. First thing, I want to thank you guys for having all these special guests on your show. All right. So far, so good. Right. And, the more that you guys, like, maybe you'll have, who knows, Brian on your show, Parker, whatnot, and so forth, the stronger, the more guests that you have on each other's show, the more the Republicans get really pissed off, when they see that, because that means that they're scared of the midterms when you see all these guests coming on each other's show like that, and they're really pissed off when they see that. But I want to I have a good question for Parker, though.
Okay, go ahead.
A good question, Parker. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Ask
Parker.
Yep.
Parker, you have another person that you actually know, right? A friend of yours that's on the show. Right?
Do you mean Dean?
Dean. I saw Dean. How's he doing? Because his heart fluttered. Remember, he was on the air.
Mm-hmm.
How's he doing?
He's been doing a lot better since then.
Fluttering heart.
Yeah, he's actually been in LA here recently, so I got to see him here recently. He's been a lot better since that happened, but yeah, he on live before almost had a heart attack. He had a flutter relating to his heart, and he had to get that checked out. That's definitely something to be worried about and to be concerned about. It's actually not common very much for especially for men his age to have that type of response, at least to my understanding. So definitely something to be concerned about and to keep looking through. And always on standby. Like my parents are both medical professionals. I can always message them and whatnot, and he always has a direct contact with them as well. And also medical professionals he knows as well.
Glad he's doing better. Yeah, I did hear about that as well. Thank you for the call, my friend. All these compliments are making me very uncomfortable. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Dave. Dave is next up on PTL. Is Dave next or no? We just had Dave. Let's go to Peter. Peter is next on PTL. Hey, Peter, you're on with Parker. Go right ahead.
Yo, hey, Brian. Hey, Parker.
Hey.
What's up?
Hey, first of all, Parker, we need a shirt that says, "It is the case." Putting it out there right now.
Yeah, if you don't know, that's something I say on my live all the time, and I've been limiting how much I've been saying it recently. I say "it is the case" all the time, like when describing things.
That's kind of like
we need a hat or a shirt with that saying.
That's kind of like me. I call people buffoons all the time, so I made a shirt on my website. Don't be a right-wing buffoon. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to say real quick. I'm 33. I'm a manager in the automotive industry, service manager. I take pride in being able to affect some of my team members because I do manage and work with multiple generations, and that's just 15, 16 people. I just want to know, at your age, how often, if any, do you just take a step back, take a moment, and kind of think about the influence that you have over so many various, or so many different generations, different age groups, different demographics, especially the ones where you're literally altering a whole perspective of the MAGAs and the people that disagree with you. That's a huge impact, and especially like I said. At 23, 22, I wasn't thinking about, any kind of influence that I had on anybody at that age. So how often do you, if at any point?
I all the time. I almost I want to say it's almost to an obsessive degree that I constantly am thinking about the influence that I have over people and how best I could influence people in a positive direction. All the time. And that's an aspect of my own perfectionism that I've had to address, and things that I'm deconstructing myself in terms of going to therapy for, which is actually what I'm doing right after this. Right, I think it's incredibly good for men to go to therapy. It's something that I wasn't accustomed to wanting to do before. I thought I didn't need, but due to things that were happening in my life, and the level of stress that I was undergoing, especially even relating to what I'm doing on the internet, I thought it was really important to be able to have that type of outlet for myself. So I want to say all the time, I'm constantly thinking about how I'm influencing people, and especially being grateful for like the privilege that I have to be able to be in such a position, to be able to influence so many people in a positive direction. I seriously am incredibly grateful every single day. I think about it all the time. And I just like, I genuinely, I can't even believe everything that's happened in my life. It's really surreal.
Yeah, and you deserve it. I have to share this breaking news with you, Parker, before we get back to the phone calls, because this is big. The Wall Street Journal is now reporting that the Department of Justice told Donald Trump back in May that his name is in the Epstein files. What's your reaction to that?
I want to say that I'm completely shocked. I'm shocked more. I'm more shocked that the information is coming out right now. I'm not as shocked that he's on that, because I would have expected he was telling people within the government to mark off all of these times where he's mentioned. He's also was best buds with Epstein for a really long time. I'm honestly not surprised, but this should be surprising for some of the Trump supporters that thought, no way, he's on it.
And according to senior administration officials, his name appeared multiple times, and Pam Bondi was aware. I'm sure everybody in the administration is aware of it. So I wanted to share that with everybody. That's breaking news. The Wall Street Journal reporting that Donald Trump was told back in May that he's in the Epstein files at least multiple times, according to the Wall Street Journal. And apparently whoever, Murdoch, who is running the Wall Street Journal, I mean, Parker, I would say that's probably pretty credible information, considering the fact that Donald Trump is already threatening all these lawsuits. All right, 702-221-7283. Hey, we got a call from the UK. Paul is calling from the UK and wants to speak with Parker. Hey, Paul, go right ahead.
Hi there, Parker. I listen to you and Dean a lot. It's very interesting. I'm a mathematician, so I appreciate the way you approach these MAGA callers. I've got a point to make, and I've got a question, because I'm an older guy. The point to make is I've never heard you or Dean, or Brian for that matter, lose a debate with a MAGA. Which proves to me that when 10 years ago I realised that Donald Trump was a threat to the whole planet, that I was right. Because sometimes I doubt myself when I hear somebody, I wonder what the hell's going on in this planet. And I've never heard you lose a debate to one of these MAGAs. You always beat